Good afternoon, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us on the WomenEd Book Club chat. And second time that we're discussing Disruptive Women, the third WomenEd Book Club book that's come out this year. Lots of amazing chapter authors. But what we thought we'd do with this book chat was open it up to our followers and our community members. So what I'm going to do is ask our community members who have joined us today to introduce themselves, and then we're going to get straight into talking about which chapters or sections that you would like to discuss. So Ginny, welcome back. You're on mute, Ginny.
Oh, sorry. So we had a great book club a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? And I was absolutely so enthralled about Emma Lockhart and how she posted, so brave, and posted the very next day. What a fabulous post that was. Yeah. So sorry, introduction. So I'm Virginia H. or Ginny. I'm not a teacher. I come from technology, managing technology change with a big bang. And quite recently, I transitioned to a completely different career as a coach, really, endeavouring to help and support women who face additional barriers in entering careers or progressing in leadership, for instance, in careers where they face additional barriers, either due to how they identify or for whatever reason. And that's me, really.
Okay, and I'm so happy that we've got an amazing lady from STEAM Women. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Uh,
Can't hear you. Still can't hear you. Can hear you
Can
now.
you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think it's my headphones. I'll remove them. So thank you so much for organizing this wonderful event. My name is Olivia Musa, but I am with STEAM Women. STEAM Women is a startup that was created by UN Women, Empower Women Global Champions for Change in 2016 and 2017. And we launched STEAM Women to close the STEM gender gap in terms of women accessing technologies, disruptive technologies such as AI, energy technologies, a lot of these new technologies that are coming up. But not only to have access to these technologies, but the ability of the women to fully deploy these technologies for the betterment of their careers and their families. So we are particularly interested in building their capacity in terms of the art of integrating these disruptive technologies for the betterment of their families, their homes, their schools, education, and especially also at their workplaces. A research that we did globally showed that about 95% of women were seeking for technologies that could help them to improve their work. So this is where we are. So STEAM is just STEM, but with an A, and A is about the art of doing the art of integrating art, the craft, and the people all together. We started following WomenEd, I think in 2019 on Twitter. This is where I got a lot of information about WomenEd, and we have been following them for a long time. And yeah, we are very excited about this project, and especially because I was finishing my PhD research, so I did not come to the internet for a long time. But when I came back now, I realized that you guys had launched a book. So when I saw that there was a training, I said, wow, I want to go and see. So that's why I also, yeah.
That's so lovely to hear, Olivia. I think what's really exciting is that you're both coming from the same sort of background, and what will be interesting in how we can sort of use both your lenses on the same sort of issues and see where we can move forward. It's really interesting that you call it disruptive in the sense of disrupting using AI as a disruptor. I think before we get to that though, obviously there is a gap within how many women go into AI. And one question that I've sort of thought of for both of you actually before we start on the book is how do we disrupt the fact, and tell me if I'm wrong, but the fact that there are a lot of men who are the ones developing AI. So therefore, with that, we all have biases. We do, we're human, so we all have biases. My worry, I'll be open about that, is that because there's only ever been a specific sort of lens looking at how to develop AI, how can we be absolutely certain that we're ready for AI when actually, and it's about this equity that we talk about in education, but equity generally, we haven't got equity yet in terms of gender equity. So is AI going to facilitate that, or do we think it might hinder it because of the fact that a lot of men are the ones that have developed it so far? So how would we disrupt that pathway for women to get into to actually not necessarily use it, but develop it first? Does that question make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Because I don't think enough women are at that stage of developing AI yet. And so that's where my worry comes from, that, well, how is it going to enable equity in the tech world?
Yeah. Thank you so much for that question. I like it very much because one of the papers that I published for my PhD thesis, I looked at the cultural norms to support gender equity in energy development. It was focused on Rwanda, a country in the global south in Africa. So what I tried to do was to apply a framework that distinguished between the material realities, which are the technologies that people can use and adopt. So in terms of the digital transformation, this can be the AI things and everything. And then I also looked at the practices. What do people apply technology for? And then I also looked at the norms and the values and the beliefs in a particular community or country. So what I have realized that is that within this value chain of the technological digital value chain, you are very right to say that it's dominated by men, especially at the development or at the beginning of the value chain. And this is where most of the money is. Most of the money is in innovation, is in technology development. So in terms of equity at that level, most of it still go to men. So as we move to now the value chain, to distribution, to even the consumers, you find that what gets to them is just sometimes a simple mobile phone. And they have to pay in order to acquire it. They have to pay for the bills in order to use it and all that. And sometimes the work that they are doing, it's not yet so much in digitized that the value sometimes of the technology itself at that lower end of the value chain is not so significant. So in terms of equity, like all the other value chains, I looked at like the fish value chain, for example. You still find that men are dominant at the production and innovation. Women are at the end, and even when they are there, they are in the production of small fish, and men are into the production of big fish, the tilapia that can be exported, and these are also the ones that can be wholesaled and everything. So from the farm, the structures are already in place to support these big products. But for women, they are into small carpenter production, and the market is not so developed as that of tilapia that gets exported. So women spend also a lot of time working, trying to distribute this small carpenter fish. And some of their roles is about cleaning the camp and making sure that the men that are working at these at the beginning of the value chain are fed, and they are also, yeah. So in a sense, I think in most value chains, the equity issue is still a problem. And the research that men do also in the production is not actually very targeted to women, I think, because men, they have their way of viewing these technologies. So I think in the end, the innovation is not informed. The major problem is that the innovation is not being informed by research that is evidence driven and that really addresses the needs of women. So equity issues, I think they will continue to be problematic. Sorry, I took long to
No, no, no,
reply.
no. There's no apologies for no. We're not apologising for taking too long. This is your space to talk. So I think what's really interesting with you saying that is that there is still a long way to go in terms of like the beginning. So Virginia is going to come back. I think she's just switching onto her phone to make sure she stays on it.
Okay.
The two other chapters that come to mind in terms of the Women Ed book in terms of disruption is increasing the representation of women and breaking barriers within educational leadership. But in terms of like leadership in STEM or
Mm-hmm.
STEAM, what would you, because even the addition of the A, and that I feel like arts and crafts is a lot more holistic than anything else. Like it's very much about like the human element that you're bringing into STEM.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any things from the chapters that you might take from to enable you to sort of diversify the leadership within your industry? Did any of the chapters speak out to you in terms of like how to move forward?
So in terms of moving forward from a leadership perspective, for me, I don't know if this perspective will mirror to any chapter. Maybe you will advise me when I've spoken to see if there's alignment in terms of a chapter. But what I have really been seeing is that there's a conceptual issue or a definitional issue when it comes to leadership in education or leadership even in STEM in our side on our side. The characterization of of people that make it actually, let's take for example in the entertainment industry, not specifically in the education industry, but in the entertainment industry. They are often regarded as legends. You know, maybe one person, they just sing one song and it has 10 million views and everyone is already calling them a legend. Even a young kid in a rural area they know that, oh, he's a legend. But when you now try to understand what really makes them a legend, it's just that song and those views. And, you know, they begin to influence a lot of systems because of that, just that popularity, maybe status. So for me, I think I have been thinking at Team Women that I think there's need to decolonize some of the terms that we have, that we already have, like especially the legend term. For me, I would want it to have specific and measurable attributes so that when we say that someone is a legend, maybe in education or a legend in music, a legend anywhere, at least there are measurable aspects that when they become the role model in their country and to maybe young people, there's some specific values, you know, that they are imparting to the other generation. So we have started as Team Women. We have just said that okay, if we take legends, the term legends itself, why can't we maybe just say maybe L will stand for something like limitless, E for eternal, and then we started like assigning some terms there. So it's a concept that we are developing. And I think we have shared one of our posts and you guys, you reposted for us. We always send some of our stuff for you to repost. So we're trying to see how to develop a concept that is intrinsically targeted so that the person who call a legend, they know that we are expecting some values, measurable values, so that when they represent a certain industry, education, or whatever, they are representing something that is relatable and useful to the younger generation. I don't know which chapter would that fall under.
To be fair, I think you've spoken about a few things that sort of work in terms of like, so one of the chapters is about a different kind of brain where it's looking at neurodiversity within leadership and the fact that you need different thinkers for a team to work. But
Diversity
then
can be
I've
that,
also just
yeah.
looked at the imposter syndrome chapter as well, because without diversity, I don't think you ever really get innovation. I don't think that's possible without diversity. But because it's such a male dominated space anyway, when it comes to certain things like, just even seeing yourself as a leader in STEM, it's hard to, because if you can't see it, how can you be it? My chapter was very much about enabling girls to see leadership potential in themselves, but then you'd have to have the role models in order for them to be able to mirror that or project that positivity. But then there's also that the power of professional networking. So the fact that STEAM women is in existence is amazing, because it's a way, it's a force of good, in the sense of like you're developing a safe space for women to find themselves in a STEM environment. So I definitely think that it's working. And the idea of we have our own superpowers as women, but not necessarily it having to be gendered. I think it's really important what you said about the fact that there are certain characteristics you would expect from these people coming into this space, and that's what their value and worth would be based on what they're able to do rather than what gender they are. The one thing that I wanted to just dig in a bit more with you, I suppose, is that because you've got this networking space, and WomenEd, I'm certain, will support you in any way possible, is how do you ensure that when you get to a stage where you have, developed leaders, you've nurtured them, it's going to take a long time because there's systemic things as well there. Like there's a reason why it's male dominated for many reasons. Women might get imposter syndrome because when they get to that stage and they're right at a stage where actually I'm going to step into leadership within that industry, how would you support them in making sure that imposter syndrome doesn't actually take over, and that they know that they should be there? Because they're not, I don't think we're going to see a lot of women yet. It's going to take a while, I think. And the fact is that AI was developed years and years and years ago, when it was just white men in a room developing it. So already the bias is there with AI. And I think there's going to be a lot of work to do to sort of get it back to a stage where it does become equitable. So if you've got women who you've nurtured and grown within your network, and they know that they're capable and they've got the skills, and then they get into the wider world and think, oh my God, should I really be here? How are we going to break that cycle? Because that will come. So how are we ensuring that when they get to that stage, they do feel like they belong there and they will make a difference? Is that when we bring men into the conversation?
Mhm. That's very interesting observation. And I think it's also part of the reason and the sense that we tried to come up with STEM women. I want to give you an example that is related to this. In 2019, I was able to attend the Neuro Apps conference, the Neural Processing Systems IPS conference. It was in Vancouver in Canada. So I was very intrigued there that the first people of other descents, that were there. They said that the reason why they fought for diversity at that level was because the representation of other groups was actually very, very low. We take, for example, Black people. We take, for example, people like Latina people. All these other categories. They were not represented at all. So that's why at that level they were able to now begin to create networks at that level of a specific group that they are looking at. So now I saw there was, for me, I went under Black in AI. Black in AI. So they just said, okay, I think there were 4 or 3 Black people out of a big conference, So they just came up with something, and I think they came up with what they called Black in AI. And then the next year the number improved, and now they have like a big force to reckon with, and there will be a Black in AI workshop, a Black in AI dinner night. So once the women that are also there at the top have been there, they should find innovative ways to now go back to these other to their to the groups that they are representing, and then also pull them up. So I think that was a perfect example. At Steam Women, we are also still a small startup, but we are trying to next year to try and maybe do a global legends program or something. Is still in the pipeline of planning to just maybe come up with maybe 12 or so individuals from different places, so that maybe we can be able to begin to spread our wings in some of the places that we have not had. But once women, they are also there, the few women that are there, they should also be supporting each other. It's unfortunate that sometimes when women get into a space where they are working with men, sometimes they are worst enemies. They don't support each other. They don't, vie for another woman to take a position, and they begin to, do these
Well, it's
funny things.
competitive, isn't it? Because if there's limited, I think I read it somewhere, if there's limited space at the table, it becomes a competition, doesn't it? And that's where it's like, well, why don't we make the table bigger or bring more
Yeah.
chairs and we create our own table? I think you've hit the nail on the head for certain issues as well there, that innately there's a competition that's being like
Mm.
bred within us because we're having to always compete for those very small spaces that we can get into.
Yeah. Yeah, so for me, I think that once the ones that have been exposed to have opportunities, to create opportunities, they should create opportunities that increase the groups that they are representing. Maybe not necessarily at that level, but maybe they still go back and begin to, form networks, so that at least they get to understand what is happening from the other women that they are representing. And like what you are doing now, you are bringing together women to discuss about issues. So even if you can't reach everyone, but the fact that now you know what a person at Steam Women is doing and what they are thinking, this is a very practical way of making sure that whoever is there, representation is important. You know now what we are doing, and it's easy for you to represent us because say, I heard someone saying this about this and this and this. So I think this is also a perfect example of what collaboration can do when maybe even women organizations begin to actually support each other and, attend each other's events. Because sometimes also when women in leadership, sometimes we nurture everyone else and we forget about ourselves. So for me also, that's why I'm from Steam Women, but whenever I hear about women activities, I try to go there, because now I also get to say what we are doing, and also now I also begin to hear your perspective. And I know that in a very big space like this, even if I will not be with you in a meeting where I'll be doing Steam Women things, but I know there's a network where I can always, look up to and go to. So this is a perfect example of what we need.
Brilliant, Olivia. I think you're a disruptive woman. Take that as a compliment, because I think you've sort of what you're highlighting is the things that you're already doing. And I think one of the things that you've highlighted, which is quite a strong statement, is sort of unmasking the fact that there are women that aren't necessarily supportive of each other. And I think that's something that is important to say. But I think it also feeds into some of the chapters about when we're thinking about sustainability and sort of moving forward. You've hit the nail on the head in terms of collaboration, that if we're not aware of what each other are doing as well, or actually aware of each other's stories and how we've got there and what our why is to get where we are, then again, we're not really moving forward in any way, are we? And I don't think we'll go into, because there's so much, because we've only got 5 minutes left now, Olivia, but there's so much more that we could discuss in terms of like the gender pay gap within AI. It would be there in terms of negotiating what it looks like, that space, in terms of how our values would fit, how your values would fit. Looking at the leadership model in the sense of it is still quite alpha male within AI. What does that mean for women trying to disrupt that? Because it then you're facing systemic sexism, which would be part of that, which is something that we talk about in the book. So I think we could spend a whole day talking about AI and women within that space and how to disrupt. But I think you've also highlighted how well, the fact that this book can definitely be used in all the other spaces that women are trying to disrupt and trying to make a difference in, as well as education. So education is the facet that we've looked through that lens, but I think it's been brilliantly having your voice and bringing in the STEAM viewpoint as well. Is there anything you'd like to say just to finish? Because I don't want you to cut out in mid-flow. So I'm going to just say you've got 4 minutes, but is there anything that you'd like to just finish the chat on? Or anything you think that you're going to start reading in the book?
Not necessarily something, but maybe next time when you are doing part 2 of the book, you can invite me also to contribute a chapter on STEM.
Okay, I will let Vivian and Kezia know that and get back to you. I think this is definitely so out of the 3 books that have been published, I think the first 2 were quite hopeful, in the sense of like, so the first one was about 10% braver, then the second one being 10% braver, what did that look like? And then this one is very much the angry book, because as much progress that we have made, it still hasn't really made a lot of impact. And so it's trying to understand why that is and what we need to do. So it's a very insightful book, a very powerful and deliberately disruptive book, because we've been very honest. So yes, I will let Vivian and Kezia know. The hope is that WomenEd wouldn't be in existence for very much longer because we sorted out the problems, but I think WomenEd is going to be around for quite a long time. Yeah, and it's about getting it right for the next generation of girls and women as well, because it's going to be their world very soon. Olivia, it's been absolutely wonderful speaking to you. And yeah, I'm absolutely certain we will collaborate with you in the future. So thank you so much for being part of our book club chat today.
Okay, so I hope it will continue this series.
Well, do you know what? I think we will. Definitely think that the amount of people that signed up haven't turned up. So that's something for us to learn and see what we can do to make that absolutely part of the deal, that if you're signing up, that you do come to it. But no, I think this has been a great moment for us to sort of listen to you and hear exactly what you're doing. So everything happens for a reason. Very glad that you've been part of it today, and this won't be the last one.
Thank you.
All right then.